All right, so now that we've seen the basic implementation of a trigger in terms of creating and dropping them, in this demonstration, we'll see a more practical implementation whereby we'll actually capture a change to a table. Now, to set this up, you can see that we have this payment table in the Sequila database, and I'm interested in knowing if anyone goes in and makes a change to the amount of any given payment. That essentially can be captured, and not only can we know that the change did occur, but we can see the details of the change with respect to what was the old value and what is the new value. So that way we know exactly what transpired. So as you can see, I've just selected everything out of the payment table at the moment. And in fact, I have already executed all of the code associated with the trigger, but we'll do it again to show you the results. But I made a change already to this very first payment, changing it from $2.99 to $1.99. Okay, so that's the current value. Now what we'll do is we'll just set it back and we'll capture that change. But to get things started, what you should create is an audit table. This is where you can store all of the captured changes. So this just simply creates a table called payment audit, and it has an audit ID as an integer and an auto increment, and it's the primary key. It has a payment ID, which matches the data type and structure of the payment ID from the payment table. Then it has the amount, which again matches the exact same structure of the original amount column in the payment table. Then changed to represents the new value. So amount essentially represents the old value. This is the new value. Changed on is a date time that indicates when this occurred. And the action simply will list which operation was performed on the record. So we'll see that in a moment. And then again, just the primary key definition here. So that has already been created. Then I went and created the trigger. So in this case, what I'm doing is capturing the update. So for starters, again, we changed the delimiter, the same as with store procedures. Then create trigger, and this is simply a name, after payment update. So that indicates, of course, what this trigger is doing. And you can see that you actually define what the action is here. So after update. So this could be any DML statement, update, insert, or delete. You could capture any of those. This one just happens to be for an update. And then notice that it is defined on the payment table. So there is payment right there. There is triggers. And there is the after payment update. Okay, so again, I've already created this, but we'll see it in action in a moment. So for each row, specifies that for any row that is ever modified, begin, and then what I'm doing is inserting a record into the audit table. So insert into the payment audit table. I'm setting the action equal to update. Again, that's the column in the table. I'm setting the payment ID equal to, and take note of this, old.payment ID. There's no table called old, but in fact, it gets dynamically created. When changes occur, they happen in temporary tables, if you will, so that the change is made in memory, and then ultimately it is written to disk. So while DML statements are being executed, you can actually query this table, and it's simply called old. And then you can see accordingly, we have a new table as well. So these temporary tables essentially represent the placeholders while changes are occurring. So you can, in fact, query these tables. They're constructed dynamically, they're taken down dynamically, but while these modifications are occurring, you can actually query them. So this retrieves the old payment ID and sets it into the value of the audit table. It retrieves the old amount and sets it into the amount of the audit table. Then changed to in the audit table is equal to the new dot amount. So of course the value that it was changed to. And then changed on is simply using the now function to insert the current date and time. Then we end our code block and reset the delimiter. So again, that has already been executed. The trigger already exists. Then I went to make the change. So here you can see I updated the payment table. I set the amount to $199, where the payment ID is equal to 1. Okay? And there, in fact, is the result. This is the original payment table here. So it currently shows as $199. But notice here that if I select from the audit table, the amount was $299. Now it's $199. So I see the change. I know that it occurred, and I know what the values used to be. So let's just do this in exact opposite order, and let's set it back to $299. We'll execute the update. That has changed accordingly. Let's go back and verify that now, in fact, it's $299. Sure enough, it is. But let's go back to the audit table and reselect, and we see a second entry. So it was changed from $199 back to $299. Okay, so this allows you to see those changes and to not just see that they happened, but to gather up the details, if you will, with respect to what actually occurred. This way you can keep a closer eye on the changes that are happening within your database, and you can be much more informed, particularly if you have high security tables and you need to know if somebody gets in there and essentially makes an unauthorized